Here we're playing a 50-cent dollar fast forward table on Party Poker. I've never played one of these in my life. I presume it's like PokerStars Zoom Poker. And seems like my opponent's timed out on the first hand. Oh, no, they didn't. All right, facing min raise, we'll definitely call. This is a pretty bad flop for me. Do I turn this into a bluff? If I had a club, I would. Without a club, I think it's probably fine just to check. If it goes check, check again, I will bluff the river, if given the opportunity. I do not think we need to bet the turn. He's going to call a lot of ace-high type hands. On the river, it's kind of a nasty run out because now he will call with ace-high again, so I'm just going to check and lose. Wow, I win. That's good. Every once in a while, you win. Ace-8 suited. I will be 3-betting this if I have the opportunity. I think limping or raising is fine. So show pre-flop chart here. Ugh, come on, computer. Well, we're going to limp. We'll bet flop. Probably not going to be able to reference these charts too well. But, so that is what it is. Bet flop, bet turn. Probably just value bet the river again. As long as I don't go too big on the river. Pre-flop, as you see, you can raise or limp, essentially. You can really just mix all of these big suited, or the suited aces. Same thing with the offsuit aces. It's fine to raise. It's fine to limp. Whenever you are looking at our implementable GTO charts, these are on pokercoaching.com, realize that a lot of these hands that are very clearly played in different ways, it's fine to just mix it up. Blind versus blind, especially. If you raise pre-flop, small blind calls. We will definitely just bet the flop here. This is a spot where the opponent should have a whole lot of big cards. It's kind of interesting to face a lead. I will call. Pray to get there. Turn additional draw. I will probably go ahead and call again if the opponent bets, and then bluff the river if he checks. I could raise. I think that's viable, but we'll call. Just try to get there, given good odds. If he bet the river, I would just fold, I think. If he checked the river, I would definitely bluff. Now when he bets the river, I will go all in because I have the nuts. So that's good. Nice start to the session, either way. And he rivered a terrible hand for him to have. He rivered the straight as well. Notice there that I actually had him in pretty bad shape, but he would have ended up winning that pot if I missed. So that's a kind of a bummer in theory. This guy's pretty close to all in, and I don't think we need to just get it all in against him, so we're going to fold. These fast forward games are nice. They're alluring, but this is a close one. Let's scroll down here. Big blind versus early position raise is going to be a fold with the king 5 offsuit. Now, this is facing a 3 big blind raise, or 2.5 big blind raise. Against the min raise, you should be defending wider. But even then, these big card plus little card hands are quite bad. We can fold, call, or re-raise. Let's get a little bit loose and put in the re-raise here. I'll actually make these charts a little bit smaller so that I can reference them easier for all of you. I don't know if that's going to be easier. Maybe it's just not going to work. I'd like for it to work, but I don't know if that's going to work. We'll bet flop with this hand. If I get raised, it's fine. If I get called, we have plenty of equity. We turn a very clear marginal made hand, and I lose to a lot of stuff, so I don't think we need to be betting now. If he bets, I'm definitely going to call. Kind of a big bet. Don't really expect a big bet there all that often. Do I need to bluff river? I don't think so. So we'll check, and if he bets, we're just going to fold. Obviously, we pray that he does not bet river, but he bets river. As he should. He should be betting river there a lot. Whether he has, like, if he has a good flush, he should be betting. If he has a non-pair, non-flush hand, he should be betting. So when he bets river, I just lose. And when he checks river, he's usually going to have something like a 10, so I lose those two, or a flush. So that's a pretty bad spot to be in. We're just going to end up losing that hand a lot of the time, and that's fine. Sometimes you just lose. Hands like 10-6 offsuit. Let's scroll over here to the pre-flop chart again. As you see, if they folded to me, 10-6 offsuit is not quite playable, so we should just open fold that. In games like this, it is very important to play way closer to fundamentally sound than against a than against players who you have some idea of what they are doing. I'm just going to fold this one. Small blind versus button raise. You see like 6-8 suited is just nowhere in there, right? And that's especially going to be true deep stacked, as we see like even ace-10 offsuit, it's fine to fold. So it's fine to be somewhat snug in these scenarios. The queen-8 suited, by the way, when I got a little bit out there, you see it's like it's on the cusp, right? 10-8 suited is playable, ace-8 suited is playable. Queen-8 suited is a little bit out there, but folding's fine. As you are playing in games where you have fewer and fewer reads, you need to start by playing just a very, very rigid GTO strategy. And then as you learn more about your opponents or learn more about the player pool in general, you can start widening your range a little bit. That could be a call there with the 7-5, but we'll just fold. We have the aces, that's good. Problem in games like this is that usually your opponents are all kind of decent. People looking to just pass the time here and there, they usually play the non-rush games. So whenever you're playing the rush games, usually against the players who are like in there battling, paying attention and really playing. And those are people who typically are more like gamers in general, and gamers tend to get better at games than non-gamers. It's a good flop. Given the board has a flush draw and a jack, I think we just want to go ahead and bet. If the board was like ace 6-2 or something like that, I'd probably be more inclined to check. Ace 6-2 with a 2 diamonds, I would still just be inclined to check. But with the flush draw and the gut shot straight draws available, I think it's fine just to bet. It's a little bit unfortunate. Maybe I'm supposed to bet smaller there. Like I could certainly be fine with betting smaller in that scenario because it's hard for the opponent to have much. As we see here, King 9 offsuit, we can do whatever we want, and that's usually going to be the case. So let's limp this time. We'll see what happens. Deep stack, you don't really want to raise and get re-raised, but if you limp and then get raised, it's okay. I think we can check this as a marginal made hand. And check call. Small bet. If he bets like 4 big blinds or something, I'll just fold. Pots it. Kind of an unfortunate spot. Now it's definitely going to be an unfortunate spot if he keeps betting. And I'm just going to check the river. Even if it goes check, I'm still going to check the river with a very strong bluff catcher. If I bet, we're trying to get called by a 7, and like right here, it's pretty hard to get called by a 7, so we're just going to check. My hand looks a whole lot like a 7 or a 2 as well, which he may try to bluff. Also notice he would raise a lot of ace-x pre-flop, so we're not going to be against a ton of aces. So I like the idea of just checking here and having a really, really easy check call. Protects the checking range, right? Not sure if there's a way to see your opponent's hands. Let's see. I'm in the Bahamas. The internet is a little bit spotty. As we see, this thing seems to not be loading. Check, check, flop. Let's go ahead and bet turn and river here. We have lots of outs. We could certainly value bet this. If we value bet, I think we need to go small, but I'm just going to check again. Same reason I checked the previous hand, just to protect the checking range. And we're just going to check call any bet unless he maybe 2x pots it or something. When it goes check, check on the flop, I should be against a whole lot of hands like under pairs, like king, I don't even know. I'm going to call clearly, but it's a weird spot where I should really be, I should have the best hand there a lot. He has the nuts somehow. Don't expect to be against nuts all that often, but hey, they get you. And notice there that if I bet river for value, should have just made it 3 big blinds probably. Whenever he has the nuts there, I just lose a pot size bet, right? Whereas if I bet and get raised, obviously I would have folded my hand, but it's way dicier. I think this is a hand we just go ahead and 3-bet and get money in the pot. We have the best hand pretty much always. And with the best hand pretty much always, it is fine to just re-raise. That said, with aces, sometimes you don't necessarily want to re-raise. I would have re-raised in that spot, but aces is the one hand that is the best hand almost always, pre-flop at least, or it is the best hand always. But sometimes you do end up slow playing it, like in 4-bet pots, because you really just don't want to let your opponents off the hook. 10-8 offsuit. What's that say from the button? Playable. Good, good. I love playable hands. Some people ask, like, do I need to memorize these charts? I think the answer is no. I think if you play with these charts for more than, a day, you will very quickly realize which hands are on the cusp of playability and which hands are playable. These hands are just in the tool section of the pokercoaching.com website, so definitely check those out. But you will very quickly see which hands are playable and which hands are not playable. It's a pretty nice flop. This is a good flop to raise if he bets because there are loads of draws available. We're not going to get called all that often if I do raise, but given there are so many draws available, I don't mind getting protection. I would definitely raise with many draws as well, so I don't really care if he folds when I have a draw. When he calls flop bet, I'm just going to keep betting turn and river. He's going to have a whole lot of overpairs and jacks and stuff like that, given he raised pre-flop, right? He's going to have sets every once in a while, I suppose, but that's fine. Sometimes you lose. Really just praying for a not fold here. Please don't fold. But he folds. That's fine. And the thing is, like, when he folds in that spot, usually he's folding a hand that has some equity. Queen 2 is a hand that is certainly fold normally. You see Queen 2 suited fold normally. But whatever. I think it's fine to get a little bit loose. Oh, there. Here, this hand loaded up. This is a spot where I can bet frequently and small. Now we have marginal made hand, so we will just check turn. I don't think there's any merit in betting. It's a very bad river. So we'll just check and lose, and that is A-okay. Let me see what this guy had this hand. So in this hand, I gave him the opportunity to bluff, right, but he didn't. This is a hand that is probably a very obvious bluff normally. Well, let's not misclick by trying to replay the hand. Here we have, what, backdoor draws? I think we can go ahead and bet. If he has nothing, he's going to fold immediately. If he has a pair, he's going to not fold, but I get to realize equity. If he raises me, I mean, that's unfortunate, but it's fine. I'm in bad shape. So I'm okay with betting. I want to bet a size that'll get him to fold, like ace-high type hands or king-high type hands. This is a hand where I check. I limp small blind. He checked. I check, called, flop, check, check, turn, and then check the river. That's definitely a spot he should be bluffing the 5-4. Either on the turn or the river. And to be fair, if he bet turn and bet river, I probably would have ended up folding. If he bet river, I was clearly not folding though, right? 3-barrel bluffs are quite strong. They get your opponents to fold out pretty good hands. Whereas 1-street bluffs are not quite as good. Well, 1-street bluffs are usually just kind of bad unless they have a decent amount of showdown value. 2-street bluffs are fine, but usually target a very specific range. And then 3-barrel bluffs are good because they really do put your opponent's entire condensed range, you know, ranges that don't contain the best hands, in a pretty bad spot. So like right there, if the opponent just goes bet, 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 I would have probably ended up folding. So here we defend big blind, 8-6 suited. Hand is perfectly reasonable, but we flop poorly. Whenever you just flop nothing, just get out of the way. It's A-okay to get out of the way. Notice that the players are playing reasonably well. I played a 50-cent dollar game just a second ago that was way softer than this. A million times softer than this. And this is why I generally don't suggest playing the Zoom tables. Even though you can play way more hands, I would definitely think your time is better spent learning to 16 table against really bad players. I think that that is going to give you a way higher win rate. And I'm sure there are programs out there that will essentially allow you to like stack the tables on top of each other and just kind of play it like Zoom, but you'll be playing against bad players. Here I limp. Facing 3.5 big blind raise. Well, let's scroll down here. Is there a way to see this? Small blind strategy. Queen 4 suited. Limp, and then that says I should raise fold. That's okay. If I did limp, I would fold it. Notice like these hands are limp folds. These hands are limp calls. So it's close. I'm deviating from the chart. Sorry, everyone. I think it's probably a limp fold if I do limp. If it was a smaller raise, I would have called. Like say made it 2.5 big blinds, I definitely would call. Facing 3.5 big blind raise, it's probably just fine to fold. But yeah, these games are much tougher. I mean, no one's making just like absurdly bad plays, right? Like everyone, well, to be fair, the 5-4 bluff. 5-4 no bluff was pretty absurdly bad. You can raise or fold this. Given the button is a very deep stack, presumably decent, I think it's probably better just to fold. We can call or 3-bet. Button versus cutoff says 9-8 suited is a flat. So sure, let's flat. This is a nice flop. We can bluff on the clubs. We already have the open-ended straight draw. So this is good. Opponent bets, I'm definitely just going to call. Although I could raise. I don't see a problem with raising. When he checks, though, let's just go ahead and start dialing it up. It's a pretty nice spot to triple barrel, as we've discussed. If I get check raise, it's pretty rough. When he check calls, you have a whole lot of underpair type hands and ace high type hands. Maybe not even ace high type hands. Maybe just mostly underpairs. I don't think we need to bluff now. I mean, obviously we could get him to fold out a hand like jacks, but now when we turn the 9, I do win a decent amount of the time. So just check. Good thing I got the equity because I would have triple barreled and it would not have worked out. And notice there, like that really does show the power of protecting your checking range by checking with some decently strong made hands, right? Because if you just bet there, I would have raised and put him in a bad spot. Instead, I would have triple barreled off. We're using small blind limp strategy. Let's just go ahead and bet the flop here. If we get a queen, it's pretty good. We clearly have some fold equity, even though the board is coordinated. When it comes big high cards like that and the opponent did not raise pre-flop, it usually means they don't have those in their range so much. So it's fine to be bluffing there. But yeah, we were getting set up on that one. When we had the 9-8 suited. That could have gone very poorly. All right, so this may look like a pretty good board for the opponent's range, but really it's not. Because the opponent should not have a whole lot of medium-type cards. This is not a particularly great card for me because he could have the 8-7, but we'll just keep betting. Do we keep betting? Yeah, let's just keep betting. There are lots of bad turns and rivers. I probably have the best hand here a lot now. Do I go big or small? Well, I'm definitely going to bet. Let's go tiny and then not fold to a raise. All right, we call. Got him. Easy call. So in that scenario, let's get that one up for the replay. In that scenario, we were essentially betting tiny to induce a bluff on the river because there's a whole lot of hands that he could have that would bluff over a small bet, and my small bet looked very marginal made, in my mind at least. So that's a scenario where I think we have very effectively induced a bluff. I mean, you saw I snap called, right? We had a very clear plan when we made that bet. If I bet big and got raised, that's a different story. Then I would probably need to find a fold, which I really don't want to do whenever a lot of draws miss. But he could definitely have jacks or other sets, right? Those are certainly within his range. All right. So here, this is a strong hand, but very susceptible to being outdrawn and could just be beat every once in a while. But that's fine. We're still just going to bet small. Actually, we're going to bet more like medium. If he has an ace, he's never going to fold. If he has a jack, like jack 4, I don't want to give him a tiny bet to face. He really shouldn't raise me too often. So I like that bet size. I think we can check turn. If he checks river, clearly we just check behind. If he bets river, it's going to be pretty rough. Notice I'm already thinking ahead, right? Some people think, what do I do on this individual street? And then they forget everything else. But always go ahead and think in your mind, if I check behind here, what happens on the river? Is that bad for me? And there should be a decent amount of queens in the opponent's range. That said, there should be a lot of aces too. Would the ace bet the river? It really doesn't need to, I don't think. So if an ace would check, then that means we're getting bet by against a king or a 10, which I block as a bluff, right? So would those hands even bluff? Would a king bluff? I mean, maybe not. I think this is probably a fold. It's a nasty spot, though. Like, if I knew the opponent was loose and aggressive and would turn made hands into bluffs, then, like, sure. I think it's fine to 3-bet or flat here. Let's just, so big blind versus button. You see we are 3-betting. Pocket 10s, right? It's fine to 3-bet your good hands. To be fair, I'm probably not playing anywhere nearly as aggressive as this chart recommends from the big blind. And, you know, that could be a leak, something maybe I need to work on. It's always important to work on your skills. And to be fair, I'm not playing these games all day, every day. Whenever people come to me and ask me, will you coach me for online 6-handed cash games? I usually say sure, because I mean, I'm certainly not incompetent at these. But at the same time, There are like legitimate 6-max pros who are playing these games all day, every day, who are going to be way more dialed into the general tendencies of the opponents, the general strategies of the opponents. And that's important, right? I mean, anytime anyone comes to me asking for coaching for a game that I really just don't play a whole lot, like say they play 1-3 no limit cash games, I will always tell them, always suggest to them, let's bet big here. I have no showdown value. We're going to get called here a lot, but that's fine. I always suggest to them to hire a local coach, a coach who is beating the games or is playing like 2-5. Like say they want to get coached for 1-3, but they beat 2-5, or now they're playing 2-5. Hire that 2-5 player to coach you, and at least give you general reads on the players, tell you the player tendencies in your games, because that's very, very valuable. Very, very valuable. Like right here, for all I know, maybe that opponent with a queen 10 right there just literally never folds when he goes check, 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 check. In which case, don't bluff. Maybe instead I'm against some players who check, 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 and they always fold. And there are players like that, especially in live poker and online as well, who you can really like drill down on specific tendencies like that they do, and that will give you a very, very big edge against them. But like I have no reads in this game at all, right? Like I don't know what the general player pool does. All I know is it seems like the players in these games are pretty competent, whereas the players in the slow 50-cent dollar game I played recently are not competent, at least at that specific table. Maybe I was lucky to be at that specific table. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. Sit me out next big blind. King 6 offsuit, big blind versus button is barely playable. I get to fold though. So fold, fold, fold. Nice thing about fast fold games is that you just get to fold. Button strategy, queen 8 offsuit, as you see, is a fold. That said, like if you wanted to get looser, I think it's fine if you know something about the players. I really haven't been paying attention to the opponents' names. Definitely take notes on your opponents if you are playing these games full time. That is highly valuable. Let's take a look at this one aces hand. Well, I guess let's do this. All right, aces we raise, small blind calls. Bad call with ace 2 offsuit, by the way. Very, very bad play. I check, he bets, I call. Or sorry, he checks, I bet, he calls. Notice I go a little bit like a medium size. It's very easy for the opponent to have like ace of diamonds or king of diamonds that will call a bet. So I like that. Turns 9, 8-7 gets there, which is unfortunate, but whatever. We lose to 8-7 in sets, so almost nothing. So I just go ahead and keep betting to charge flush draws, to charge straight draws. You could have a hand like sevens. Pocket sevens is just never folding to any bet, but will always call a bet, right? Now on the river, something interesting happens. He checks, and now I think his range is going to be a whole lot of marginal made hands, right? He's played his hand very much like a marginal made hand or a busted draw. So if he has a marginal made hand, how much is he going to call? Well, he's going to call a small bet, right? If he has a hand like pocket sevens, he's not going to call a pot size bet very often, so I don't want to make a pot size bet. And if he has a busted draw, he's not going to call any bet. So the only bet size that makes a whole lot of sense here is a small bet. Unless I know the opponent's just an extreme calling station, which I don't because I have no reads, right? So we go small. Notice we went 30% pot. And then opponent raised. Pretty quickly. Snap potted it. And we're just going to gobble this up with a call all day, every day. I very clearly made this bet knowing what I'm inducing, right? The marginal made hands are going to call, which is great. The busted draws will raise sometimes. Now, I do lose to pocket jacks. Certainly could have that. I do lose to pocket nines. Certainly could have that. Not a whole lot else, though, right? I guess I lose to jack 9 suited of diamonds. So one combination of that. So we're really only looking at, what, 7 combinations of hands? That's almost nothing. Of course, he could have slow played 8-7 suited. That's 11 combinations of hands. But how many busted flush draws are there? Well, there's a whole lot of ace of diamonds. There's some king of diamonds. Some queen of diamonds. Jack's not going to turn to a bluff. 9's not going to turn to a bluff. So it's like 10-8 of diamonds, I guess. 10-7 of diamonds. So right there alone, I already have just a pile of bluffs. Also, he could have backdoor club draws. King, queen of clubs, ace, 10 of clubs. Like all those hands would conceivably bluff. He could have a hand like pocket sevens and decide it's no good on the river and turn it to a bluff, although I don't think that's necessarily the best play, although it could be fine. So really, there are just a lot of potential bluffing hands, right? So when there are a lot of potential bluffing hands, I just make an easy call. And I do want to make it clear, just because your opponent has a lot of potential bluffing hands does not mean they're going to bluff with all of those potential bluffing hands. But if there's like 80 potential bluffs and let's just call it, I don't know, 12 nut hands, if they're bluffing with even half of their bluffs, they're bluffing way too much. If they're bluffing with 20% of their bluffs, they're bluffing way too much, right? Because 20% of 80 is what? 20 bluffs and 10 nut hands, 12 nut hands. That's way too many bluffs. They can realistically only have like 6 bluffs there. And I think we're going to be against that way more often than not when we bet tiny in games against good aggressive battle-y players, right? If this was a game against weak, tight, passive players, like say you're playing 1-3 live, no limit, you can bet small there and then fold to a raise because they're not taking this ace-2 and turning it into a bluff. So anyway, that was a nice hand. One of the better ones we won. I don't remember the other one we won. Let's see, does it show me? Guess it doesn't show me all my hands. Anyway, we won a hand at the beginning. I don't remember what it was. My memory's not so good for things like this. But such is life. Thanks for watching. Good luck in your games, and I'll talk to you later.